Hello you gorgeous light workers, how are you today? Apart from being gorgeous. Today I'm talking about how many people are waking up. It's not what you might imagine. I'll tell you all about it on the other side. So I had this fantastic conversation with the emissaries about the Great Awakening. Remember, they've always talked about the Great Awakening. In fact, that was the first message that they came through, a message of great hope about the Great Awakening. And yet, many people, and amongst our group, many people aren't seeing it. Okay, and that's understandable. You know, I see it a lot, but that's because I'm looking for it. Okay, but lots of people aren't seeing it. So what's that about? So I was asking the emissaries and I said, look, tell me, what would you say was the percentage of the population, the world population, whatever that number might be, that are waking up? And they said, we would put it around about 45%. Now, that flies in the face of everything that lots of other people say, like, you know, it's 10%, you know, very low numbers, 5%, 10%, 15%. And some comments from people on these videos say, well, just in my group, I'm just not seeing it. So I put that to the emissaries and I said, look, you're saying 45%. Lots of people aren't seeing that. So what's going on? And they said, well, you've got to understand that we're not talking about 45% of the people all being activists and speaking out and saying what's on their mind. They said that many people are going through a process of waking up. But that doesn't mean A, that they recognize it. It doesn't mean B, that they accept it. In fact, they're terrified of it. And so what happens is that lots of people who are waking up internally and not externally. In fact, you can have conversations with people who are in the process of waking up and they will viciously deny and attack you. And they will say, what you were saying is a load of rubbish. That's rubbish. That can never happen. And yet on the inside, according to the emissaries, the fire's already been lit. So how can that happen? How can we have people who are denying it and yet on the inside, they're knowing it? And if we did a survey of people, how many people would consider themselves awake to what's happening? You wouldn't get 45%. And yet, the emissaries are saying that that's the case. And they reminded me of the many, many people that I've talked to, women in particular, in therapy, who have been in dreadful relationships. And I ask them this question. I say, before you got into the relationship with this man, what was your gut feel? And they said, my gut feel was run. And they didn't. They stayed. And because they ignored that intuitive message, which was run like fuck, they then had to suffer a very unhappy relationship or whatever. And this is where this big majority of this 45% are at the moment. They are denying what their intuition is saying. They're denying what's patently obvious. Why are they denying it? Well, for all of the reasons that we know. They deny it because when you accept something that is so big, then it's terrifying. It's terrifying. The thought of accepting it. This is one of the biggest arguments that we get. When we talk to people, they would say, no, it can't be, because I wouldn't do that. And therefore, if I wouldn't do it, other people wouldn't do it as well. Big mistake. Big mistake on their part. That's exactly what I used to think. It can't be. The government wouldn't do that because they're people like us and we don't do things like that. The difference is that we're good people. And my gut feel is that the majority of people are good. And there's a small amount of people that are not. There's a small amount of people that are They're just on the wrong side. They're in the dark. Let's say, if you want to use a metaphor, they are possessed by something else that makes them not be true to who they really are. Okay? And so we've got these people who are awakening on the inside, but who are reluctant, scared, or just unwilling to actually voice that. They won't voice it. And the emissaries reminded me of the story of Jesus when he was he'd been arrested, and then the Roman troops were going around trying to find the disciples. And one of the disciples denied Christ 3 times. And Jesus had told him that you would deny me. And he denied. And in the end, he actually, in the Bible, he used swear words, he cursed because he was denying it. Why? Well, he was scared. And the truth of the matter, remember, we've only got fear or love. He was in fear, and so he denied. That's where these people are. They are shit scared, because if they accept it, if they admit it, then the whole paradigm of their life changes. So my next argument with the emissaries, I said to them, all right, so on the inside that they're waking up, but they're not expressing it. In fact, if anything, they're trying to push back against this intuition. And I said the same with these women that I've worked with, who heard the intuition knocking on the door, and yet they ignored it. And they ignored it for a lot of years. Some people have been in marriages for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and they still won't accept that they made the wrong decision. The emissary said the difference is between that particular situation and the reality of that which we live in now, is that when you've got, let's say, an abusive partner, and I'm talking about women as well, many men had the same intuition as well. I just tend to work with women for whatever reason. In therapy, women are more open to fixing things than men, I think. When women have heard that intuition and ignored it for a long time, there's only been one stimulus. That's what the emissaries are saying. One stimulus, which is a rotten partner. For any male or female, rotten partner. They said the difference today with what's happening is that there isn't just one stimulus. There are multiple stimuluses from all over. Remember, when the doors of perception are open, suddenly all the messages come. Now you can bang them back, like in a game of tennis. No, I'm not accepting that, I'm not accepting that. But the very fact is that you're seeing it. Why? Because the doors of perception have been opened. And they're saying that it's the case that all of the stimulus that's coming to people from the way that the world is now, with social media and with everyone's got a phone, and so everyone's being bombarded. And what they're saying is that all of these lies are being unpicked. So basically what happens is the baddies have woven behind, the baddies who are being guided by this satanic kind of mentality. They've woven a narrative. They've woven this lie, and this lie is very complex. And it's like, if you get a rope, it isn't just one twine in a rope, it's multiple, all intertwined. And that's what these lies have been. They've been woven into this very strong rope. The issue is that each time that people are looking at things, the twines are being unpicked. They're constantly being unpicked, and the rope is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And the baddies know that. They know that the unpicking of their lie is a disaster for them. It's disastrous, because once it starts getting unpicked, then people start seeing, hang on a minute, this isn't fitting together like it used to. It used to fit together very nicely, and now it's not. I watched recently, I haven't finished it, the film with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he does all of his work in people's dreams. And one of the lines that stood out to me was that He said, it's very important that people believe the dream that they're in, because if there's anything that makes them think that this is not real, this is not right, something off, the dream spell is broken. And that's exactly what's happening now. The dream spell is being unpicked, and it's a spell. It is a spell. It's hypnosis. It truly is. But if you don't know that you're in hypnosis, boy, they can get you to do anything. As soon as you know, then the hypnosis is broken. Now, you can choose to accept to stay in it. You know, when I do hypnosis with people, I tell them that they're going to go into hypnosis. I explain what it's going to be. And so at all times, they are giving their permission to be there. But the hypnosis that the baddies use is a hidden one. It's a dark hypnosis. You don't even know that you're in hypnosis. And so when their narrative is being unpicked, people start seeing, hang on a minute, this isn't right. There's something wrong. It's like in the film, this Japanese guy falls onto his mat on the floor, and he's got his hands there, and he says, I know this mat, and this mat is made of wool, but I'm touching polyester. Okay? And instantly he said, I'm in a dream. That's exactly what's happening right now. People are touching the mat and saying, hang on a minute, this isn't the mat that I know. There's something wrong. That's the dream spell being broken. So the 45% of people are in that process. The fire's been lit. It's smelling. It's smelling of burnt. And they know that there's something wrong. But that doesn't mean that they're going to speak out. If anything, they can actually become more virulent with the way that they try and rebut what you're saying. Because they know the intuition's saying there's something wrong, and they cannot accept it at the moment, but they will. They will. So don't take it badly if you find people that are rebutting. One of the signs of change happening is when you get a reaction which is over the top. There's an over the top reaction. That means that the person's in fear. You see, if you said to somebody, hey, well, I believe that there's a secret cabal that's running the world, and they want the very, very worst for us. Somebody who's not attached to that would say, I don't agree with you. I don't really see that. I mean, it's interesting, but I just don't think that's the case. That's a person who's completely asleep, who's believing this narrative that's been woven. The person that pushes back, the person that gets angry, the person that shouts and screams, why are they doing that? Because they're terrified. Because they know that their whole premise, their whole paradigm is really, really breaking down. And that's scary for them. And so we've got to have a lot of compassion for these people, because they're in this bad place. It's an awful place to be. This cognitive dissonance, this trying to hold two beliefs at the same time. It's awful for them, and it can cause mental breakdown. So that's where they are. So yes, the Great Awakening is happening, and there's no stopping it. There really is no stopping it. And all that we need is patience. We just need to just hang on while people go through this. But never take as a sign that when somebody is at you, attacking you and telling you that you're wrong, don't take that as that's because they really believe what they are saying. It's because they don't really believe it. And the only thing is they've got to exaggerate just to, people who are very, very confident about what they believe, they don't have to exaggerate anything. They just have to say, well, that's what I believe, and I'll tell you why I believe that. People who shout and scream and call you names and stuff like that, that's because they haven't got any basis for what they believe. So all that they can do is to behave like children and scream and shout and call you names. That's because it's not built on anything. It's built on sand, there's no foundation there. So the emissaries were saying, the damage is already done. the narrative is being unpicked. There's nothing that people can do, and there's nothing that the baddies can do. For this reason, they're trying to ban things like TikTok, ban Twitter, X, or whatever. Why? Because it's filled with unpicking of the narrative posts, and they can't manage it. The narrative can only stay together when it's a complete and full narrative. Unpick one thing and it opens the door to everything else. You know, that's how most of us woke up. We wake up to one thing, and then it's that one thing that untwines everything. And so 45% of the population are in this process, and if we ask in 6 months' time, it's going to be a bigger number. But that doesn't mean that we're going to see it, okay? We just have to believe it. And you know what? If it even wasn't true, if we believe that, if we truly believe it, that's going to help. It's going to help. I believe it anyway. I know, because I can see the changes in people around me, the people who were very, very kind of... I remember telling my in-laws about my beliefs about what was going on in the world, and they just looked at me and smirked. That was their reaction. That was their reaction, just to smirk. They believed the entire narrative. And so what I said was just like, whatever, what a mad person. But now I see a difference in people. Sometimes people are they just listen. Sometimes they are extremely reactive. All of that's a good sign. All of that's a good sign. So let's just keep the faith. Let's know that this is a process that we're in that can't be stopped. The fire has been lit, and soon we're going to have a raging furnace going on. And it's going to be interesting. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.